Hi, Jim from the Fleet office here. Going to take you through the admin setup for your forms. Forms being the major component behind your timesheets and dockets. Apologies in advance, this is going to be a fair amount of detail and quite a long video, but it is important that we set these things up correctly. You're going to do it as kind of a one-off or once in a blue moon, so it's good to have a decent video that you can refer back to and make sure that you get this right. Now, when it comes to both timesheets and dockets, as I stated, the most important component is the form that you want the guys to fill in. What we're going to do here in forms, and the way to get to forms is through Fleet Admin, and the Fleet Admin sub-menu here you can see forms. I've already thrown a couple in. What we're going to do is we're going to create a timesheet. I've got an example timesheet here from one of our customers. Obviously the important information there is blurred out, but just to explain how we've gone about building forms and the system to do this, is our main component is the bit at the top and the bit at the bottom. This component in the middle, that could be on one day it could be one line, on another day it could be 50 lines depending on what you're doing. So in order to do that accurately and correctly, we consider this a subform, this component in the middle. This bit's a form and this bit's a subform. What we have in here is sometimes where there might be a project or a unit, they can actually be dropdowns. If there's information that you're going to pull from somewhere already in your system, that will be a dropdown. That terminology is important to know. What I'll do now is I'm going to jump in, and first of all we're going to have a look at the whole timesheet, and then we're going to go into the subform. The timesheet here, operator timesheet, I've already created one to save us a bit of time, is made up of multiple items, and the items can be taken by the drop down type in the first field there. So to match up with our timesheet demo we just gave you, we want to insert a date. So in there we simply go date select. Here are all the options of the different types of items you can have in your form. Over the next couple of examples you'll see a few. Really powering this, really getting there and having a play with it and seeing what suits you and your business. Every business is different. So as I've said, there's a date select. The label goes above it, so if we scroll down to the bottom you'll see we've got this really handy component which shows what your people are going to see. In this case, this is what it looks like on a desktop. Most of your operators will use a phone, so I can click to the phone view here, and this is what that timesheet entry would look like for them. As I said, the component here, the label, sits just above, and the help text is what sits in the middle. Sometimes it's great to have that help text just for different terminology that you might use, project/job site, asset ID / machine number, and so on and so on. You guys know what you use in your company, so go with what you know. The really important component to all of this is making sure that our mapped to field is correct. This is what our system's going to look at when we come to export that data for you. So when you come to do today's date entry, you must have it mapped to date. A bit more information in there for you, but I can't say how important that is, so that when we come to export we know exactly what we're exporting and where. If you're importing that into other systems later on, Zero, Viewpoint or whatever, if we don't get that bit right, then it falls over from the start. So any doubts about that, give us a call and we'll help you through. When you've got map 2 fields here, it will also go through and do some calculations. So for the start of the day, the end of the day, the total breaks taken will give you your total time. Again, that will come out in an export that's really, really important to you. So make sure you get these map 2 fields right. Any questions on that, come back to us. In here, literally just some straightforward fields that you're going to capture the information from them. Going to put a signature in, a date select, and I've just put a checkbox in there saying night away. You might have multiple of these. What the point to note is this tick box required means that they can't go on and save unless they put an entry in that position. So think carefully about whether the field that you're asking them to fill in is a required field or not. You might have some in there for info only. If you uncheck that, it means that they can get on with entering that timesheet without having to put in every single piece of information. As you can see down here, actually it looks pretty tidy, but there are other things you can do, like adding a quick divider. I like the divider here, and you'll see it arrive at the bottom here. I can move that up and say I want that before the signature. If I see now, I've got a nice divider there. It just starts tidying up that timesheet. Not as important as timesheets as it is in Dockets. A lot of Dockets are done on an iPad or a tablet, and it really is important to start using dividers to make it look that little bit better and to give the operator a much more easy to use platform. So that's our main timesheet. When you're doing your timesheet here, all really easy to fill in. You're going to get to the bit of activity. Now, as we said, activity is this component here. We don't want to just have 10, 15, 20 blank fields there because people will be scrolling forever on their device. So if they press that button, and they can press it as many times as they want, they will open up, I'll go ahead and save this, go back to forms, that will open up the subform that we talked about here. Now in that case, you can add as much detail as you want. Again, you get to see what that looks like in the various views. So in there, the asset number, job site, description, start, finish, and any break for that particular line item. So once again, that's the subform that we'll fill in. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to assign, go back to forms, go back to my timesheet, and I'm going to assign that to myself. Once I've assigned it to myself, I'll be able to do it on the phone. I'm going to jump on and I'm going to make a quick recording on the phone that I'm going to stitch into this video so you can see how that looks. I've now assigned it to myself. I've gone ahead and saved it. Great, I'll flick that into this video and I'll catch up with you in a second. Okay, just going to give you the view of what your operator will see when they're in the app. As you can see, we're on the main page of the app here. I'm going to select Timesheets, the third token down. In I go. It's going to give me an overview of what timesheets I've done in my given timesheet period. Now we do set up what a timesheet period and how many weeks they do at a time or days at a time in settings, which we'll cover off a little bit later. I'm just going to go ahead and create my timesheet for Friday. I hit the create button. The date is already populated. Remember, that's that really important mapped field that we cannot change. We don't want to change that. My job site that I'm currently on is the demo one. Remember, that doesn't have to be a must-have field. You can decide upon that later. My start time, I'm going to say that I started this day at 6:30. My finish time for the day, and this is for the whole day, this component. Let's say I, finished at 5:45 p.m. Breaks I took for the day, I took an hour off, but obviously our breaks are just done in minutes, so I'm going to put in 60 minutes. For my total hours for the day is 10 hours, or 10.25 hours. What I can go in here and do is I can sign a date and I can actually submit that as a timesheet. But you as an employer, I'm sure you want to know more about what's happening. Hence our subform button, which if you remember earlier on we called activity. I go ahead and press that, and it allows me to enter a bit more detail about what I've done. In this case, I'm not going to enter an asset ID. I'm going to select the job site. I'm going to say that I was doing a pre-start, and if I just remember, we started at 6:30, so our start time again will be 6:30 because that's what time we started our pre-start. And let's say I did my pre-start until 7:40. 6:40, 10-minute pre-start, quick chat. What I'm then going to do is click activity, and I am going to add an asset. We'll pick EX12, same site. Remember, we can swap around sites. You don't have to have that field in this subform, up to you. I'm going to click my activity as operating, my start time as 6:40, and I'll say I was there until 5:45, which does my day. I then go on and I sign. I can date, that should be today's date. If I had a night away, I can check this box. I'm not, I'm just going to go ahead and press submit. It says thanks for submitting that timesheet, and I'm done for the day. Simple as that. I've now captured all the information that I want to capture. Obviously throughout the day there might be multiple activities. They might hit that subform button 20 times, they might only hit it once, they might not hit it at all. This way you're capturing the absolute minimum of what you need to capture so that you can pay them correctly and obviously allocate your correct costs to your jobs. Okay, back in the main menu now. Obviously our operator or employees completed their timesheet, and we can actually go down to the timesheet section here What it typically opens up to is just a little dashboard showing you what's going on. One user with 4 timesheets to be submitted. Typically the person in charge of this person or your administrator goes on to approve these. If I go to review here or down here, I can see the information that person, obviously me, has done in hours so far. I can click on and I can see the various records that have been submitted. Let's have a look at this one on the 8th. Go on and I view that. Here's the information that's been submitted. I can change the status to approved. It's been updated. I go back to my dashboard. I can see that I've approved 11 hours worth. I haven't rejected any, but there's still a little bit there unreviewed for that time period. Talking of time periods, we do need to set this up correctly, and in order to set up correctly, it has to fit the way that your business works. So if we go down to settings here, we can see that the pay period might be weekly, monthly, and what day it starts on. That way we capture, everyone knows what their deadline is to have their timesheets in and submitted. We capture the right amount of data without going over at any particular time. Nice and easy setup there. Whether you pay weekly, monthly, fortnightly, we can count for any way of doing it. The last component of this is when you come to export the timesheet down here. We collect the data here and we export it into the form of the CSV, which allows you to either upload into your accounting or payroll software, or just keep it on record so you know exactly what was paid when. You can always come back and do a date range search on any of these big lumps of data by your projects, your departments, or even if it's a particular form. In the case of your business, you're likely to have a number of different timesheets. You're never really going to get away with one generic timesheet. This program actually accounts for that. You can have as many different timesheets as you want, and the key to it is when you allocate it to people. So when we go back into Fleet Admin and we go to our forms, as you saw, we created our timesheet for operator and we assigned it. We assigned it to an individual person in that case. However, you can assign it to a project or a department. Quite often you've got admin as a department, and everyone who works in admin will get a similar timesheet. You might have field, drainage, operators, whatever departments you have. It allows you to group certain people to certain timesheets and make sure that people see the right thing. It gets a little bit more complicated with dockets because quite often you might have a number of different dockets that your operators need to see, so therefore you're allocating multiple kinds, and you do rely on the operator to know exactly what they're doing and picking the right docket. We'll pick up dockets shortly in the next video and show you a little bit more detail about how to create a docket and how to allocate. Very much the same principle once we've done the form, but from that part on, obviously you need to capture that information accurately so that you can form your invoices to your clients and customers. Okay, now we move into dockets. As you can imagine, the type of activities that you may carry out in certain areas of your business, this could get very complicated. One of the areas that is a good middle ground for us is to talk about the type of dockets we have completed when we're delivering material or truck and dog type dockets. In order to do this, as you can see on the screen there, we have the main truck docket here, as well as 2 subforms. If we have a look at the main docket here, I'll scroll straight to the bottom so that you can see what it would actually look like on the screen, onto an iPad screen for them. You've got the basic information about their day that you want to capture and export. Then you've got a couple of buttons here for loading and tipping, then a signature just to say or authorise that they've done that. And we can put a signature form anywhere, we can call it whatever we want. So at the loading or tipping component, you may want to put a site foreman signature or a client or foreman signature so that you can have that little bit of extra proof that you were there and you did what you did. All of these dockets are exportable, so once we've completed one, you'll get to actually forward them off in a PDF or in a form so that people can see them. It's your proof that you've carried out that work or made that delivery. Okay, so to go into the forms again and see what these buttons actually are, I will go in and I will look at the truck loading. Very similar to what you've done in the timesheets with the information that you've put in. The important difference here that I've added is the location. But when they press that button to say that they're loading, it's going to grab the location from their device. We're going to imprint that onto the actual docket itself, so you're going to see where the location is. Obviously I'm using my desktop at the moment, so the location isn't going to be pinpointed, but from their device, as long as they've got location services enabled, it's going to pinpoint that. That's really, really good for when you want to say to the client, I was here at this time and I made this delivery. In this case, we're just going to keep it nice and simple: what time you arrived, what material, the customer, the gross weight, and what time you left. We can change this and make it look pretty or do whatever we want. You know how to do that now by watching the video so far. It really is up to you how you want to make it. If you do have any questions, of course, you can come back to us. I'm just going to flick over to the app now so I can show you what it looks like to the operator. I'm going to do it on an iPhone. We'd expect most people doing Dockets in the truck would do it on a tablet, but I'm going to do it on the iPhone and just show you how easy it is to do it and what that looks like. Then we're going to flick straight back to the web and have a quick look at what we do with that information once we have it. Okay, so here we are in the app. You'll see the Docket button just under Timesheets there. I'm going to go ahead and click that. It will show you any editable dockets, any dockets that you have that have not been submitted so far or have not been brought into your main system, so that any change you need to make, you can go in. Obviously, I don't have any of those at the moment, so I'm about to do my first docket. In order to do my first docket, click the big button up the top. Pick the asset that I'm in. Now I don't have any trucks in this demo, so let's say I'm in a T60. I can put my kilometers at the start, I can put my kilometers at the end, bearing in mind that most of your odometers should be coming into your system via our trackers. Start time for the day and finish time for the day gives you overall docket time and a bit of break time. Most of this information is now captured in your timesheet, so it's not as important. The important bit is about your loading and tipping. You can see your loading at site information here. I'm going to go ahead and say that I've arrived an hour ago. The time that pops up will be the current time. That enables your operator as they arrive at site, they hit the button. Another really cool thing that they do obviously is it spot checks exactly where they are from the device. So you've got the arrival time merged with the lat and long, giving you a little bit more information on each of your docket. My drop down for material I'll say is rock. My customer is HHG rock. That's from your drop down list, and I can say that I departed a little after I arrived. My gross weight, let's say, was 25 tons. I'm ready to tip now, so I can go ahead to my tip site. I can say that I've just arrived. My material is the same. I'm not doing a split shift or anything like that. In this case, my customer's the council because I've moved it down there. This component of the docket is quite important. My departure time is now. My weight is 0. Let's put that weight to 5 tons. I go ahead and I can sign. This is my whole docket for the whole day. A trip report full of mini dockets of loading and tipping. I put my date in, already auto-populated. I go ahead and submit that information, and it submits it down to your main admin login, so you can see exactly what's going on. We're just going to jump back there to the main system and show you how you can now look at that as an admin and get that information where you need it, pull the data out for your invoicing purposes. Just as you can see on the screen there, you will see that your editable docket information is now there. If you need to jump in there, hit edit, and you can change the fields you need as a driver if you've made a mistake. Other than that, once it's submitted, it goes up to the main portal and your administrators can use that information for billing purposes. Okay, so now we're back in the main web platform. We're going to go into the Dockets portal. A little bit of setup you need to do in Dockets over here. When you hit the Dockets button, you'll see this sub menu come up, which is Review, Templates and Export Dockets. The first thing that we will have to do, and you really want to spend a bit of time on this bit, is to set up your templates. Templates that you're going to do, I've put one in there called Docket. You can add as many PDFs for Dockets or templates for your emails in here as you would like. You must have at least one of both, otherwise you're not going to be able to export and send. for your Docket email, literally create whatever you want to be in the main body of your email. If you're pulling these fields here, these fields exist somewhere that you have captured in the system. Now, as you know, recently we did a release that put into Fleet Admin, if you go to organization, the information about your company here, we can drag these out and we can put them into either a body of an email or put them into a body of a PDF for your Docket. They'll go across automatically without any mucking around. It means that you're not having to put them in every single time. So we go back into Dockets there, and in particular we want to go to templates. For the emails, as you see, I've got my standard one. Haven't put a lot of time in this to make it really tidy. I've put some basic information. You can put some text in there. Thanks for your business. And you can put a signature in there, whatever you want to do. Whatever you put in here will come out in every email that this system creates to provide your clients or yourself with the information and the PDFs for the Dockets themselves. So I'm going to go ahead and make that change there. Up on the templates here, there are the PDFs. If I hit the PDF on the Docket button, you can see I've got the same sort of setup here. I can use all of these tools to make this PDF look exactly how I want it. So do please spend a bit of time in there. If you do struggle, get onto us. We'll put an administrator on to help you and make sure that you've got a really good quality product going forward. Now, back to the Docket that you've just seen me do. I'll go up to review. You can see that there is, in this time period that I'm searching for, there is just that one Docket, Docket 183, which is the Docket I've completed. It's new at the moment, hasn't been rejected or approved. So if I go ahead and click on that, you'll see that the information that I've captured here, including the little maps. Now, this is the basic form that captures all that data and can be set up into however you want it to look. It does take a little bit of messing around to get it right, which then populates your PDF. When you go to view send Docket, because you want to have a look at it, you can click there and view the PDF version of this information, or you can send it and it automatically includes a PDF of that information. Type in a client's email address here, or your own email address, or whoever you want it to go to. We already created the bulk of this when we set up our template, and you go ahead and press send. I won't send that email off just now, but it will contain this information, and that almost closes the loop. The last component of the loop is obviously to export the Dockets. I want us to look at any new Dockets in this case, and I want to export them. I can go ahead and do that. It creates the CSV for me to import into my system as and when I need it. As always, have a play. Any questions, come back to us and we'll help you out as best we can.